Today's program is brought to you by OTCStockShark.com. For the latest and greatest OTC and Pink Sheets information, sign up for your account at OTCStockShark.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
In today's financial news, stocks finished the day with a mixed result as weak consumer confidence reading offset the latest round of strong corporate earnings. Stocks traded in a narrow range throughout the day, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average closing up 12 points at 10,537 on another day of soft volumes. But the other major stock indexes ended slightly in the red as investors pushed down copper and crude oil prices and snapped up a $38 billion auction of two-year Treasury notes to register their lowest yield ever. While companies' earnings and revenues have beaten expectations enough to return major indexes into the black for the year, investors appeared hesitant to lift stocks higher as economic data continues to disappoint. The Dow was weighed down by its consumer-sensitive components as investors fretted over how they might be impacted if a drop in consumer confidence reports to a decline in consumer spending. American Express fell 1.9%, Home Depot dropped 1.4%, McDonald's slipped 0.7%, and Walt Disney fell 0.4%. DuPont kept the decline in check. Shares of the chemical giant jumped 3.6% after the company reported its second quarter profit nearly tripled from the same time a year ago. Revenue increased more than expected on improved volume and higher selling prices. In U.S. news, Americans fighting the war in Afghanistan have long harbored strong suspicions that Pakistan's military spy service has guided the Afghan insurgency with a hidden hand, even as Pakistan receives more than $1 billion a year from Washington for its help in combating the militants. The documents, made available by an organization called WikiLeaks, suggest that Pakistan, an ostensible ally of the United States, allows representatives of its spy service to meet directly with the Taliban in secret strategy sessions to organize networks of militant groups that fight against American soldiers in Afghanistan, and even hatch plots to assassinate Afghan leaders. Taken together, the reports indicate that American soldiers on the ground have many accounts of a network of Pakistani assets and collaborators that runs from the Pakistani tribal belt along the Afghan border through southern Afghanistan and all the way to the capital, Kabul. Much of the information cannot be verified and likely comes from sources aligned with Afghan intelligence, which considers Pakistan an enemy. Some describe plots for attacks that do not appear to have taken place. While current and former American officials interviewed could not corroborate individual reports, they said that the portrait of the spy agency's collaboration with the Afghan insurgency was broadly consistent with other classified intelligence. Some of the reports describe Pakistani intelligence working alongside al-Qaeda to plan attacks. Experts caution that although Pakistani's militant groups and al-Qaeda work together, directly linking the Pakistani spy agency, the Democratic for the ISI, with al-Qaeda is difficult. The records also contain first-hand accounts of American anger at Pakistan's unwillingness to confront insurgents who launched attacks near Pakistani border posts, moved openly by the truckload across the frontier, and retreated to Pakistani territory for safety. The report suggests, however, that the Pakistani military has acted as both ally and enemy, as its spy agency runs what American officials have long suspected is a double game, appeasing certain American demands for cooperation while angling to exert influence in Afghanistan through many of the same insurgent networks that Americans are fighting to eliminate. In today's international news, the Chinese government has called for an end to the public shaming of criminal suspects, a time-honored part of Chinese law enforcement, but one that increasingly rattled the public. According to a state-run media, the Ministry of Public Security has ordered the police to stop parading the suspects in public and has called on local departments to enforce laws in a rational, calm, and civilized manner. The new regulations are thought to be a response to the public outcry over a recent spat of shame parades, in which those suspected of being prostitutes were shackled and forced to walk in public. Last October, the police in Henan province took to the internet, posting photographs of women suspected of being prostitutes. Other cities have been publishing the names and addresses of convicted sex workers and those of their clients. The most widely circulated images taken this month in the southern city of Dongguan include young women roped together and paraded barefoot through a crowded city street. The police later said they were not punishing the women, but only seeking their help in the pursuit of an investigation. The public response, at least on the internet, has tended towards outrage, with many postings expressing sympathy for the women.
These are the most powerful songs of all time. Time Life presents Classical Power on 5 CDs for just $29.99. But wait, order in the next 10 minutes with your credit card, and we'll cut the price to just $14.99. That's right. You get 5 CDs for just $14.99. Then preview other beautiful classical CDs. Satisfaction guaranteed. This collection is not sold in stores, so call now and get Time Life's Classical Power on 5 CDs for just $14.99.
Call 1-800-731-0511 to order Classical Power for $14.99 plus shipping when you call in the next 10 minutes with your credit card or order online at timelife.com/power.
In health news, after one patient died and others suffered serious complications following lap band surgery, Dr. Nilu Paul has seen enough. A petite surgical resident, now aged 40, she began quietly calling patients about to undergo the weight loss procedure at New York University's Medical Center, telling them she feared for their safety. Dr. Paul had previously raised her concerns with hospital officials complaining about the lack of care given after surgery and incomplete or inaccurate medical forms that were taken prior to surgery. She was fired weeks after hospital authorities learned she had contacted patients. She has filed a wrongful termination lawsuit and enrolled in law school. Paul, who came to the United States from India a little over a decade ago to practice medicine, says she has been blackballed from her chosen profession. The NYU bariatric surgery practice where she worked is widely considered one of the world's most experienced. But in an interview with Dr. Paul, she described the facility as a hectic lap band factory. Dr. Paul said, "My impression at the time was that the practice was disorganized. But once I knew more about the system, I could see what they were trying to do was get as many patients onto the operating table as possible." According to Dr. Paul, during her 3 months at NYU Langone Medical Center's surgery weight loss program in late 2005 and early 2006, 2 surgeons, Dr. Wren and Dr. Fielding, implanted gastric bands into as many as 20 patients in a single day. Known as pioneers in the field, Dr. Fielding and Dr. Wren are also paid consultants of Allergan, the Botox and breast implant maker, which is the leading manufacturer for the gastric band. Though rivals have been gaining, Allergan's lap band still commands more than 2/3 of a $300 million market. 2 critics, Paul's allegations underline the potential risks that go along with the industry's rapid growth, and the business could soon swell even more if U.S. regulators grant permission to perform the procedure on the nation's bulging ranks of overweight teens. Dr. Wren was an investigator in an Allergan-sponsored clinical trial studying the use of bands on teens, and the company has an application with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration seeking approval to market the device to teens as young as 14. A decision could come any time. Winning regulatory approval for the gastric band in teenagers would allow the companies that make the devices to target that specific age group. Today, regulators consider performing the procedure on teens experimental, as it has not been approved for that age group. But like any device, it may be used on teens at a doctor's discretion. In tech news, according to a new government ruling, despite how shady and against the rules it sounds, jailbreaking mobile phones is now legal in the United States. But what does that mean, and why do people jailbreak their phones? The simple answer is to gain more control. Some mobile phones, particularly the iPhones, come with restriction on what types of apps you can purchase and run, which cellular network you can use, and essentially what you can do with your phone. Jailbreaking the iPhone allows you to shop for apps anywhere on the internet, not just the iTunes App Store, where all of the apps must be approved by Apple to go on sale. There are several types of apps that Apple apparently won't approve, and you can find many of these apps on sort of a black market app store for jailbreakers called Cydia. Here are some popular apps you can use if your iPhone is jailbroken, but you won't find in the mainstream app store. MyWi is an app that turns your iPhone into a mobile Wi-Fi hotspot. That means you could jump on the internet with a laptop, even if you can't find a public Wi-Fi network to join and you don't have 3G. IntelliScreen lets you customize the iPhone's home screen, which normally just shows the time, date, and a switch that lets you open the phone. With this app, however, you can have your email and your calendar on your home screen so you don't have to open the phone. Last is T-Alert. Instead of having to open the iPhone's text message program, this app lets you respond to new text messages from any program or screen. Perhaps the most popular reason for people to jailbreak their phones is so that you can unlock them too. This is a bit confusing, but there are fundamental distinctions between jailbreaking a phone, which lets you download any app, and unlocking it, which allows you to access other wireless networks with the iPhone.
Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
The makeup in today's program is provided by MAC Cosmetics.